Well, thank you for joining us for the Policies and Programs for Employers, part of this day of events. I'm Alex Stokman with Missoula in Motion, and we'll begin. Actually, I would like to begin with a brief round of introductions from our crowd here. So each of you know each other, and it is a small group. So do you mind starting?
Sure. I'm Haley Hansen. I'm with the College of Project Innovation. I am a recruitment coordinator, and so I work with most of the teachers and students and do a lot of their work.
I'm James Beer, and I'm with the Missoula Housing Authority. My official title is Special Projects Coordinator, so I found out what that means.
I'm Kevin Schuweiler. I'm with Missoula Housing Authority as well. I'm doing collections and support.
I'm Adam Ragsdale. I'm also with the Housing Authority. I'm the Operations Director.
Great. My name is Amy Boyden. I'm with Mud. I'm a career maintenance manager over there.
Terrific. Well, thank you all for coming out this morning. Today we'll be discussing designing policies and programs that can be applied to support your employer transportation programs. Topics include variable work schedules, telework, and additional programs, and the importance of having these formalized programs to help ensure that behavioral and cultural change. But first, let me review why these programs are important. According to the Department of Labor's Bureau of Labor Statistics, car ownership costs are the second largest household expense in the U.S. In fact, the average household spends almost as much on their cars as they do on food and health care combined for their entire family. Since all households have only a limited amount of income, the amount a household spends on its car is lost money that they could have spent on other expenditures like saving for retirement, education, or the purchasing of a home. The average annual cost of driving alone in Montana is about $750, which includes gas, car payments, insurance, and maintenance. We spend more on transportation than health, food, and education combined. 40% of all trips taken are 2 miles or less, making sustainable transportation a viable option that provides cost, health, and quality of life benefits. There are certainly impacts on businesses as well. 8 out of 10 employees consider the commute an extension of their workday. A stressful commute seriously impacts employees' sense of job satisfaction and can negatively affect employee retention. The transportation network is an organization's lifeline to labor markets. An efficient network plays a role in an employer's ability to attract good employees and access new labor markets. Employees arriving to work late or stressed from a long commute negatively impact overall productivity and the quality of the work environment. Parking facilities are expensive to construct and maintain, and parking shortages can also affect the organization's ability to support continued expansions. If you've ever experienced a shortage of customer or employee parking, then you'll benefit from a commute program. Employees who choose a sustainable commute create open parking spaces for customers, reduce the demand for building new and costly parking spaces. And being a good neighbor. Businesses are seen as good neighbors when they provide programs for their employees and seen as looking out for the environment and their surroundings. There are also impacts on the community. The quality of the commute plays a significant role in the overall perception of the quality of life in a community. Increased vehicle travel and worsening traffic congestion are major factors in deteriorating air quality and having significant health implications. Communities all over the country are struggling to keep pace with the enormous costs of transportation infrastructure. Transportation projects take a long time to plan and execute, and construction often creates additional impacts on congestion and community character. Traffic congestion and air pollution can negatively impact the community's ability to attract new jobs and maintain overall economic health. Traffic congestion and ozone pollution are not only impacting commuters, they are impacting our businesses and communities. As an employer, you are concerned about your employees' quality of life and work experiences, as well as your role as a community leader. So today we'll touch on some programs that will help you implement these ideas and thoughts into your workplace. And some programs that we'll specifically focus on today are variable work schedules, teleworking, and then run through some additional programs. Variable work schedules. Two non-traditional work schedules are compressed work weeks and flex time. They can be attractive benefits that meet the changing needs of workers while enhancing recruitment and retention efforts. Compressed work weeks enable workers to perform full-time jobs in fewer than 5 days. And flex time schedules allow employees to adjust their arrival and departure times within specified ranges. We'll look at those in more detail. Before implementing variable schedules, such as compressed work weeks and flex time for your organization, consider the benefits you might achieve for both your unit or the organization. Here are some proven benefits other organizations have gained. And I'd just like to highlight enhanced retention and recruitment, which we've touched on. Improving schedule for peak workloads. So when you can alter a schedule, you can add more employees during those peak work hours that you need employees to take care of your clients and customers. Reduce tardiness and absenteeism. One of the things I like to say here is with the bus or with variable work schedules, there really isn't tardiness. As far as the bus goes, the bus always arrives within 5 to 10 minutes of the same time every day. When people are left to their own accords, they push it to the limit. And driving your own vehicle, you have more flexibility, but also as an employer goes, there's a lot more tardiness. Absenteeism, that's teleworking addresses that one because with weather activity or weather, I guess, improbability or the probability of a weather problem getting in the way of a commute would be reduced through a telework program. These programs are definitely shown to boost employee morale. Sorry, I'm having a difficult time with these today. And improve employee performance, and also address the carbon footprint and greenhouse gases that we talk about hear about almost on a daily basis. So looking at a compressed work week, employees who compress their work weeks are generally able to avoid the peak commute times each day by driving early, arriving early, or staying late. Businesses benefit from these extended hours of customer service and production. They help in recruiting and retention, among others. And then the most commonly used variations of compressed work weeks include these. The 440s, which is 4 10-hour days with 1 day off. This is obviously a sample schedule. The Friday doesn't necessarily have to be off. And this sheet is, I believe, included in your packet as one of the sheets with these sample schedules. The 980 is 80 hours over the course of 2 weeks with 1 8-hour day and 1 day off. This arrangement requires a little bit of flexibility on how you define your work week and some labor laws that go into that as well. So carefully look at that arrangement if it's an interest to you and your employees. And then 3 36-hour 3 work days for 36 hours total. The balance of the 40 is either granted to the employee because they work the 3 12-hour days, or it's just time off. So 3 12-hour days. Typically we see those in the hospital shifts, like here at St. Pat's. So a compressed work week is any schedule permitting a full-time employee to perform the equivalent of a week's work in fewer than 5 full days. In exchange for working longer days, employees do enjoy longer blocks of time off. Compressed work week schedules typically are classified according to the number of days in the work week and the number of hours in the workday. Some compressed work week plans feature fixed schedules in which workers always have the same day off, such as Monday to Thursday work week with every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. Others do rotate. You see that again in the hospital shift work or line workers, that kind of thing. Employers should consider a number of factors to determine the feasibility of a compressed work week arrangement, including production requirements, collective bargaining agreements or unions, federal and state wage hour laws, and employees' interests. Flexible work hours, like compressed work weeks, commuters who use flexible time generally avoid peak commute times and have the flexibility they need to meet personal and family obligations. So employers generally see a reduction in tardiness and absenteeism and many other benefits. Flex time refers to a scheduling system that permits employees to choose their starting and stopping times within limits set by management. Key elements are core hours, the time when everyone must be present, and flexible start and stop times, times when employees have a choice in which they work. Some organizations permit flexible lunch periods as well as flexible start and stop times. So this is an example of that type of schedule where you see the core hours between 10 and 11 in the morning and then 2 and 3 in the afternoon, and the employees can shift beginning and ending or even lunch hour. Generally, employees must work a standard number of hours within a given time period, such as 40 hours during a 5-day work week. Some flex time plans allow workers to change their schedules frequently, even daily, while others require a commitment to a set schedule for a period of weeks or months. Flexible schedules allow workers to alter their workday to conform with family responsibilities, outside activities, and personal preferences. I heard one of the gentlemen mention he usually doesn't start until 8:30, so maybe this flexible work schedule would be for him. However, plans typically require that all workers be present during certain times of the workday or the core hours to facilitate communication and ensure full staffing during those peak work hours. Flex time plans should be chosen according to the business's needs and based on analysis of the employee job duties. Greater flexibility is possible where employees work independently and need not be available to clients and customers. Flex time plans are not practical for all work sites or all jobs. Were there any questions on the types of variable schedules before I move on? Teleworking is another one of the options that we'll touch on today. And the truth is that many businesses do benefit when the right employees telework. It's also true that telework, working from home or location other than the primary place of business, isn't for every job or every employee. This is one way and one reason employers do choose teleworking. It's because it does cut down on the carbon footprint that business has as far as transportation goes. So let's take a closer look at what teleworking is. It's also referred to telecommuting. Telework is traditionally described as employees who use telephones and computers to work from locations other than the usual place of business. For example, a home or satellite office or even a telework center. But today, the term has come to have a broader definition. Teleworking is when the employee uses telecommunications and computer technology to give themselves the freedom to work from any time work at any time from any location. This could mean checking your email from a client's office, filling out paperwork at a hotel room in Seattle, or writing a report at midnight in the local coffee shop. The goal is to eliminate a commute trip to the work site, and some commute trip reduction laws define teleworking as the use of telephones, computers, or technology to permit an employee to work from home, eliminating a commute trip, or from a workplace closer to home, reducing the distance traveled by a commute that is at least half of what their commute trip would be. As much as employees like teleworking, it's important for them to understand that working from home is a work arrangement, not a benefit. Also, it's not for everyone. Employees who telework must be self-motivated, results-oriented, and able to work independently. They must be successful in their current position, knowledgeable about the organization, and be effective communicators who take initiative. The benefits of a telework program include increased productivity as a result of fewer distractions and continuous interruptions, and providing continuous uninterrupted work time. Improved morale due to giving employees more flexibility to manage their work and family life. Expanded opportunities to hire persons with disabilities who might not otherwise be able to work in a traditional office setting. Reduced absenteeism based on the availability of employees to work in spite of emergencies such as heavy snow, car trouble, or a sick child. Increased compliance with EPA regulations designed to improve air quality and reduce traffic congestion. And employees are ready to work in an emergency. A lot of time has been spent recently on talking about emergency preparedness, snowstorms or chemical spills. Missoula could be prone to chemical spills from the railway. And so workers that have telework capabilities can avoid those things. And so you would have your workforce available to you if any of those happen. Expanded parking spaces for customers and/or reduced traffic congestion around the work site, and reduced need for office space as teleworkers work from home full-time, or they can share space with other workers. Employees do see the decreased stress because they aren't commuting, and increased job satisfaction because they're working at their own pace, in their own comfort zone and time. There are some common concerns that technology might cost too much, and if that is an issue, there are solutions to those, like have teleworkers check out company laptops with appropriate software, and providing equipment in the amount of time that a teleworker works remotely. So you can compensate accordingly. If someone's teleworking only a few days a week, give them the appropriate technology to do that. Teleworkers feel that they are much more productive in the home, at least 10 to 30%. Productivity can justify the expenses of setting up a teleworker, and teleworkers can save their employees approximately $10,000 each year in reduced absenteeism and job retention costs, according to a telework study released by AT&T. So, do teleworkers lose touch by being out of the office? What if there's a last-minute meeting? They may miss out on water cooler discussions and decisions, or they may lose company loyalty being away from the office scene. But most teleworkers only work from home 1 or 2 days a week, so they do get that touch with the rest of the workforce. You can designate specific in-office days for scheduling meetings, and all others can be handled by conference calls and the technology that we have. Teleworkers should be available to come into the office as needed. Research indicates that teleworkers are usually more available than any in-office staff, yet teleworkers get more done because they don't experience the number of interruptions. They are also more loyal due to the trust involved in that telework agreement. Everyone wants to do it. Suddenly, everyone will claim that they get more done at home and would produce more, drive less, and enjoy their job if they could only telework. Telework should be considered a privilege, not a right, and utilized as an incentive and ensure that everyone understands that not every job is suitable for telework. Tasks that are successfully managed in a telework program are those where the individual already works independently. It also requires the right type of personality traits, dedication, motivation, and the ability to solve problems and make decisions.
Did you say that here you probably see as an incentive? You could use it as an incentive.
You could.
Previously, one of the things that was up there said that it's to be regarded not as a benefit.
True. Some people do view, if the policies aren't in place, some people do view teleworking and telecommuting as a benefit so that they can stay home with their children and don't have appropriate child care for their children. So if the policy that the employer puts in place says that it's not a benefit in that regard, that it is an incentive for them to have more flexibility, it can be seen in that way because, again, teleworking doesn't have to happen 8 to 5. Teleworking can happen in a variety of schedules and work arrangements, but that all does need to be discussed in policy. So I would look at it that way, that it is an incentive maybe to someone who doesn't wake up early in the morning, that they can telework between core hours, similar to how we were talking about the flexible schedules. And it's an incentive for them, but it's not a benefit as such that they can use that to do other things. Does that answer your question? Okay. Two others that I'd like to touch on is it's impossible to monitor productivity. We hear that sometimes from managers that they won't be able to see what work is being accomplished, and monitoring deadlines will be tough because the person isn't in the office. Teleworkers can create regular status reports outlining the tasks they intend to complete on their telework days and report back to their supervisor whether those tasks were completed or not. And teleworkers should also make a point of being accessible via phone, email, or instant messaging. That's one way to manage. We'll also talk about managing by results versus managing by time in the office. So, and then the resentment issue, that it will create a resentment among employees who aren't selected. Employees who don't qualify and aren't able to telework for various reasons may show resentment. And most companies offer a variety of alternatives to the traditional work schedule. So staff should understand that telework is not for everyone or for every job, as we've touched on, but offer flexible schedules and compressed work weeks as an alternative for those employees. That's one way to address that. So implementing the change. There's a 6-step guide to the successful implementation of flexible schedules and compressed work weeks at your work site. You'll want to take a look and review your organizational policies. See if your organization has written policies on compressed work weeks or flex time, even telecommuting. If so, then read them. If there are no policies, recommend that the organization is set up a cross-functional task force to develop them. I have some sample policy in your packet, some sample policies for the flex time and compressed work weeks, as well as telecommuting. You can consider the costs and benefits. Can compressed work weeks and flex time help your department or organization improve results? And look for opportunities that will help you better serve your internal and external customers. Then move from your idea to your plan. If you think compressed work weeks, flex time, or telecommuting schedules make sense for your organization, you'll need to figure out work schedules, appropriate models, participation, supervision, and communication. Then move from your plan to your action, and now's the time to present your plan to the staff, receive feedback, and request employee proposals. Remember to include your decision Remember to include in your decision non-participating employees who may be affected by these changes, those that may resent that they're not included. Contact Human Resources for guidance and tracking on reporting vacation, holiday, sick leave, and personal days off. Also consult Human Resources about documentation that may be required by Montana state laws. There's a lot of Fair Labor Act laws that need to be followed. And then initiate a trial period and communicate that with your employees. For the first few months, test the way your new schedules are working to assure that the compressed work weeks, flex times, and teleworking schedules are successful. Monitor the arrangements during the trial period and then make adjustments as necessary. And finally, evaluate and improve your program. At the end of the trial period, evaluate the program in terms of your original objectives. You may be measuring costs and benefits, customer satisfaction, employee effectiveness, and/or impacting non-participating employees. Keep evaluating and keep fine-tuning. So we're creating that flexible work environment so that people don't need to rely on their single occupancy vehicle as much. And there are some factors to consider in creating that environment. The company fit. Today's employers of choice offer competitive salaries, excellent benefits, and added perks such as flexible work arrangements. Flexible work environments provide employees with greater work-life balance, which improves retention. However, before establishing flexible work arrangements, consider these following factors. The company fit. Flexible work environments should complement overall company objectives. The concept should enhance the company's competitiveness and foster greater productivity and effectiveness. Therefore, it's important to determine how offering flexible work arrangements benefit or contribute to the company's mission and the costs associated with the proposed changes. The culture. Today's workforce is more diverse than in past years due to societal factors such as the increase of single-parent households and dual-income families. There are more women in the workplace than ever before. In addition, as the number of discrimination charges rise, companies are more sensitive to workplace diversity. Therefore, more companies are making efforts to hire people from a wide spectrum of ethnic backgrounds. Companies must consider how the proposed change will translate to the masses. Administration. There are several different types of flexible work arrangements. These include job sharing, teleworking, flex time. Each company has its own unique and specific business needs, and some arrangements work better than others. For example, flex time may work well for the bank teller positions because there are higher demands during peak hours, banking hours, and banks can hire necessary staff to accommodate customer needs during peak times and fully maximize a part-time pool of employees. In some cases, certainly key positions don't allow for such flexibility. For example, managers and supervisors have increased responsibilities to accommodate the new work arrangements. Therefore, companies must determine the impact of flexible scheduling will have on overall business operations. In addition, it must be clear who will oversee and track flexible schedules. There must be alternative arrangements for unexpected absences. For example, companies may require telecommuters to maintain online timesheets or daily and weekly status reports. And finally, discrimination and liability. I'll briefly touch on this, but I am not a lawyer. So that's my disclaimer here. The key to design a flexible work environment that meets the client's demands without adversely impacting the employees. So flexible work arrangements can't discriminate against any protected class of employees by gender, race, or age. This means flexible work schedules should be made available to all employees in the same position with the same job duties without violating any Equal Opportunity Commission guidelines. You also want to look at So there are those points again. You want to minimize some of the problems that you may encounter when implementing these schedules. Communication is critical. Communication is critical to the success of the flexible working arrangements. A written policy is the best way to minimize these problems. All employees and managers should receive written details of how the program works and keep your employees in the loop. Telework or flexible work arrangements shouldn't mean out of sight, out of mind. They should receive all communications. Periodic department team meetings is a great way to address that on a face-to-face basis and help will instill that team atmosphere. So we'll look at establishing those written policies and guidelines. A policy should outline or include which positions will be eligible for the flexible work arrangements, how an employee's can request the flexible work arrangements, and establishing the guidelines for selecting those employees, reviewing how the process works, appealing the process if someone thinks that they are not included, and how that appeal will be looked at and who will take on that responsibility, and specify who in the organization will approve those arrangements. Also establishing those core hours where all employees must be in the office. All employees and managers should receive the written details. Holding meetings are important, and even though the policy needs to be in writing and communicated to employees, it must be flexible enough to handle a variety of issues that may arise. Managing. To manage the program effectively, managers need to be sure that employees' responsibilities are handled when they're not in the office. Backup systems need to be in place, as well as scheduling considerations to have full-time coverage during your peak times. Managers must be ready to change the way they manage their staff and look at work arrangements, like I said, managing for results, not just time in your seat. Managers also need to have a high level of trust in their employees, and the employees need to work independently and be committed to making the flexible work arrangements actually work. And then monitor. To minimize problems, you need to be aware of what they are and keep tabs on them or monitor them. Supervision, discrimination, and discord among the co-workers.
I would presume in that communications that when you say face-to-face, I would presume that an actual physical meeting could be, well, is useful, but virtual meetings, conference calls, that kind of stuff can also be substituted for that as well, for regular communication.
Sure. Yeah, I would say use the technology that we have. And webcams are definitely becoming more and more popular in the workplace. So having those virtual face-to-face meetings. But there is something to be said for a physical handshake and being able to read body language and such.
If you're on a virtual camera, make sure you keep your jammies off.
Let's put on our shirt, huh?
Do what the TV people do.
Has there been any studies that you're aware of that talk to the effectiveness of a virtual meeting as opposed to face-to-face?
I haven't seen any yet, but we can look into that definitely.
Yeah, I was just curious, because I've had to do them when I take online classes, and there's just such a different approach and the interconnectedness.
And what would you say? Would you say that it's preferred, or?
I mean, I think there's definitely something to the face-to-face aspect. If anything, just what you're saying, being able to shake the hands of one person and I, and there's somebody non-verbal cues. Sure. Just don't forget, over the screen. Just curious.
It is a good substitute for texting, and lends to a little more supervisory capabilities. But yeah, there is something to be said for maybe a once a month face-to-face or putting that into the policy.
Once we get holographic communication, which is coming, then we'll be okay.
There you go. So managing by results, which I've alluded to a few times here. Often we talk about the benefits of telework and flexible schedules. We talk about the process of managing by results. But what exactly does that mean? Managing by results is a process where job performance is measured by outcomes and deliverables, rather than judging an employee's performance on whether or not he or she shows up for work at a specific time and is sitting at their desk for 8 hours a day. Managing by results allows managers to fairly evaluate employees, regardless of whether they actually observe the work being accomplished or not. There are a few simple steps to follow when managing by results. Review the current job, tasks, and responsibilities together with each manager and each employee. Discuss and agree on these. Establish measurable outcomes and deliverables. Measurable outcomes focus on quantity, quality, time, cost, details, methods, or steps required to complete the task. Specify who receives or monitors those outcomes or deliverables, and when interim checkpoints and due dates will occur. Be clear and specific. Use language that avoids subjectivity, vagueness, and interpretation. Link outcomes and deliverables to organizational goals. It's important that managers take the time to help staff see the importance of their work functions in relationship to the organization's goals, missions, products, and services. Then track the performance results. Tracking results allows you to compare how an employee is doing from review period to review period. Schedule ongoing evaluations and revise as necessary. This applies to both ongoing and formal evaluations as an employee's job performance and the management by results process. And remember to give immediate feedback. In addition to regularly scheduled performance reviews, use every opportunity possible to give feedback to employees. We'll now talk a little bit about additional programs that you can implement at your workplace. These additional programs and services can influence travel behavior, increase sustainable transportation usage, and positively impact the overall quality of life throughout the greater Missoula area. I'll spend just a little bit of time on each of these. So if you would like more detailed information on any of these programs, please let me know after the seminar. So we'll touch on car sharing, busing, bicycling, carpool and vanpooling, parking, community support, and competitions, which are fun. So car sharing, and car sharing not in the sense of personal car sharing, but fleet vehicles. So companies can provide fleet vehicles for work-related trips. If someone buses into your work site, what vehicle do you have for them to make their work trips that are needed? Many employees say that they must drive alone because they need their car for work. To overcome that barrier, an element is providing fleet vehicles for work-related trips. Additionally, some companies do provide those vehicles for van pools, carpools, or personal trips. We're seeing more and more companies flexing their policies around their company cars to allow employees to use those for personal trips. The doctor appointment in the middle of the day when an employee will be returning to the office. So there's some considerations in using and setting up a policy for using fleet vehicles is obviously get your fleet manager involved from the beginning. Talk with your insurance provider and legal counsel. The liability issues are what's the point there to discuss with both of those, insurance and legal counsel. Set up a reservation system that gives priorities to meeting carpoolers. So make sure you have an office culture that encourages and promotes people to ride to meetings together, to off-site locations. In the case of the fleet pool program, determine if all or part of the cost will be covered through rider fees. Some companies provide the vehicle and then have a service fee associated with carpooling and vanpooling, dividing the costs of the fuel amongst the riders. Or
that is very important. You consult their insurance company because there are real serious legal issues with charging people to ride, because it's kind of like a public service transport system, and you've got to be real careful, you know, to make sure that this is a legitimate service fee and not a fee to somebody to ride a vehicle and stuff. That's why talking to your insurance company and legal people are very, very important, especially if you're going this route.
Sure, thank you. The point was there's some clarity needed between charging fees for using company vehicles for carpooling uses, and to specifically check with insurance providers and legal counsel on that.
It only takes one incident to get you in real serious trouble.
Sure. Then obviously creating those policies and procedures for your fleet pool program or your fleet vehicle usage that addresses these additional programs or usage for your vehicles. All right. The bus. When employees consider alternatives to driving alone, the first option they often think of is the bus. The bus can be a great option if service is available within 3 blocks or a quarter mile of your work site and is also near the employee's home. Employees have easy access to park and ride lots where they can park their car and ride the bus or meet carpools and vanpools. The bus schedules match work schedules, and that's where you can implement some of that flexible scheduling or compressed work weeks to accommodate bus schedules and people utilizing the bus. People will use the bus if there's safe access between the transit stops and your work site. Oops, and there's one more. If this situation isn't the case at your work site, our transit agency, Mountain Lion, may be available to work with you in your work area to adjust schedules or stops to better accommodate your employees. Don't hesitate to ask. They are open to comments and are there for you. So there are things you can do to support busing for your employees. Although some employees need no assistance with using public transportation, others may need a little more encouragement. You can help by doing the following: providing bus information, learning what bus routes are close to your worksite and share that information with employees. Keep a supply of current transit information and route timetables on site, and become proficient with the planning a transit trip and offering that assistance to your employees. You can promote bus riding by holding special promotions that encourage employees to ride the bus. For example, give away prizes if employees ride the bus at least once during the commuter challenge or other promotions. Offer subsidies. If your organization offers transit subsidies, they may be tax deductible. Let employees know about this benefit. If subsidies aren't available, then try to sell the benefits of the subsidy program to management. Work with your transit agency. We just talked about that. More employees would ride the bus if a stop were closer to your work site or if the arrival and departure times were more convenient. If so, Mountain Lion officials could see if those improvements could be made. And take employees on a ride. I know some sites have done this. Missoula Aging Services worked with their seniors to introduce them to busing. Offer to teach interested employees how to use the bus and ease their first-time jitters by taking them on a ride. Possibly Missoula in Motion can work with you if you're interested in doing that to maybe set up some free ride tickets. We've worked with Rocky Mountain School of Photography for their new students that come to town to do a training ride for them. And they go from the College of Technology to downtown when they have 100 new students in town for the summer.
You know, I want to emphasize that point. I think that's great by taking someone by the hand and showing them how easy it is. I myself was taught how to do it in another city, and I would never rode the bus if somebody had said, come with me, this is how easy it is.
Great, yeah, thanks. Likewise, I had a similar experience. I lived in a large city, and the first time I rode the bus was actually not a work commute or anything else. It was a free ride to the fair. And that got me on the bus, and I thought, well, this isn't that bad. I can do this. And it is a great experience for people. And once they get past that, well, what do I do? What do I tell the driver? Some of those hesitations and fears to something new. If they get introduced, it's a great way to get them riding the bus.
One other thing it's not mentioned a lot is the psychological aspect of this. Is when you ride public transport, there's a sense of freedom you get. Once you get to your destination, you don't have to worry about parking meters, getting your car. You can just go to your residence and then go back and get a bus and day driving. It's like having your own private chauffeur.
Definitely.
Place you want to go, and you can concentrate on living your life if you like. And it's really great.
All right, I like that point. Thank you. Riding the bus yourself. When you use the bus, you gain credibility and also as an advocate for transit. I think that's important for management to do and leading by example, being a role model for employees. Bicycling and walking aren't just about staying fit and healthy. When you leave your car at home, you're helping everyone by reducing that traffic congestion, the wear and tear on the roads, and the need for more roads and parking. You're also helping to keep the air clean, neighborhoods quiet, while saving on petroleum. Quite simply, biking and walking are inexpensive and efficient forms of transportation for short trips around town and to work. Walking is an option for employees who live within a mile or two of your work site. For these employees, it's important that safe and direct pedestrian access to your work site exists, such as sidewalks, lighting, designated crosswalks, and it would be useful for showers and lockers available for these non-polluting commuters. Bicycling is an option for employees who live within 5 miles of your work site. If employees live further than 5 miles, some portion of their bicycle trip can be combined with transit. For example, if the employees ride his or her bike from home to the transit stop, then take the bus, or the bus takes them partway from home and then uses the bicycle the remainder of the trip. All our Mountain Lion buses are equipped with bicycle racks. Bicycles require secure parking or storage areas. Showers and lockers are highly desirable. In some cases, bike lockers are available, and they're available at Central Park in downtown Missoula. So allowing that secure storage before hopping on the bus, or making sure that your bike is secure is important to those employees bicycling. You can, to promote bicycling and walking to your work site, you can assess the surrounding areas of your work site and make sure that it's safe and convenient to bike or walk. Know the pedestrian and bicycle routes in your area so that you can assist new or current employees with that information. Keep bicycle route maps on hand to give to your employees. And set up the bicycle buddy mentoring system. Just like using that introduction to the bus, you can use it to encourage biking and walking as well. Other programs, bicycling and walking subsidies, flex time to accommodate those biking and walking schedules, fleet vehicles like we've discussed for those work-related trips and or personal trips if your policy allows, a parking pass for drive-alone days. So as a benefit, because they are biking or walking, you could, if there's a fee associated with parking, use a drive-alone pass for the day. And then parking cash out, and we'll touch a little bit on that concept, is when parking charges do exist, that they can use that funding to support biking and walking versus utilizing it for a parking space. So carpooling is very common. Carpooling is the most universally attractive alternative to driving alone. As you see here, a carpool is a motor vehicle occupied by 2 to 6 people. And we hope that it's in the effort to reduce one motor vehicle commute trip. So unfortunately, your children going to daycare don't count. And a carpool can be full or part-time with 1 or more persons over the age of 16. Sometimes businesses define carpools as with other employees for carpool parking privileges and purposes. But it doesn't need to be. Spouses are considered carpool partners. Sometimes people oversee or don't acknowledge that they're in a carpool because they're with a family member.
Is this based on individual personal vehicles, or is this company fleet vehicles? Because if it's personal vehicles, again, talk to your insurance company and get legal advice. Because there are horrendous issues, if you have any accidents, those kinds of stuff, you've got to be real careful about what you're insured for, what you're insured, and I don't like to complicate things, but make sure you talk to your insurance company and any legal representatives before you do that, because there can be horrendous consequences if you're in an accident or whatever.
Right, and
Although that there are legal consequences.
yeah, carpooling in general, this was designed to talk more about the personal vehicle carpooling, but those fleet vehicle carpools do exist, and carpooling to meetings and such during work time. And the comment was to make sure that you address your insurance and legal requirements for liability issues. So there are things you can do to support carpooling at your work site. You can get involved in the process in a number of ways. Offer assistance by helping potential poolers identify partners through ride matching. Match interested employees together within your organization or nearby businesses. Identify potential poolers, identify prospective carpoolers and contact them to determine interest and compatibility, and offer to make personal introductions. So if you know 2 people live in the same area, offer to connect them and see if they can partake a few days a week. Provide carpool wanted or vanpool wanted opportunities, bulletin boards, newsletters, classified, internal classified ads, email messages can help potential poolers advertise the worksite carpool or for a carpool partner. Arrange rideshare formation meetings. Sometimes we call them pool parties. Arrange an opportunity for interested poolers to meet each other and discuss the possibilities of sharing a ride. This is a good time to review the benefits of ride sharing and discuss your company's program and if you have any incentives that you offer. Urge employees to give it a try. Encourage potential poolers to try carpooling on a trial basis. For example, a 4-week period will give carpoolers a chance to work out the kinks, provide them with a graceful way out if need be. And then follow up. Keep tabs on your carpoolers and help them work out any difficulties.
And are you aware of any websites or any places in town that do that in general as opposed to just one business? Like I live way out in Mullen, so it's hard, I don't like how to think about myself, and I don't know anybody out that way. Do you know of any resources for maybe you offer?
Sure. Mr. TMA, which is the Missoula Ravalli Transportation Management Association, has carpool and vanpool ride matching software that they utilize to link up individuals in different areas. So I can get you their contact information.
One other thing I'd like to add about this is that policies about if the designated car vehicle is unavailable, the city driver gets sick and is unavailable, how do you communicate that to the other people so the employer just doesn't have 5 people not showing up in the morning?
Sure.
And then if you're in an accident or you have a flat tire or something like this, how do you communicate with, who do you communicate with, the see the one debate or whatever. It's one of the things that is important in carpooling.
Yeah, supporting those carpoolers in a variety of ways, like setting up contingency plans for a sick driver and maybe snow emergencies or flat tires, that type of thing is very important. And having those carpool arrangements made ahead of time with your carpool partners. That communication system is very key.
Just in the schools, the buses went up to the road for 2 seconds.
Right. Van pools. Unlike carpools, a van pool allows you to save wear and tear on your own vehicle and offers greater cost savings because there are more participants. A van pool can be a private or company vehicle, but is often a vehicle owned and maintained by the local transit agency. And here in Missoula, it's the Missoula Ravalli Transportation Management Association. They own the vehicles and then contract with participants to be drivers and backup drivers, and they do have a fee associated with the service. A van pool is a motor vehicle that is occupied by 7 to 15 people, and they travel together for their commute trip, which does result in the reduction of several motor vehicles. A lot of the van pools that we have in the Missoula area do come from the Bitterroot area. And I know that there are some that go in the reverse direction, so down to Hamilton, to the biosciences and medical facilities down there. So other ways to encourage carpooling and vanpooling is offer that ride matching, either internally or externally. You can provide preferential or reserved parking, maybe discounted or free parking for your carpoolers or vanpoolers. Guaranteed ride home, which is a service that Missoula in Motion offers, is generally a taxi ride home in case of an emergency, whether it's a sick child or having to unexpected overtime are typical guaranteed ride home or emergency situations. Offering that carpool or vanpool subsidy. Currently, a vanpool subsidy is tax deductible, but a carpool is not. Flex time to accommodate those schedules for vanpoolers and carpoolers, dropping people off in other locations. And then, again, touching on the fleet vehicles used for work trips. So if you have a van pool of 15 people coming in, there's only one vehicle available to them if your company cars are available for those work trips. That's definitely helpful. On-site amenities, people don't often think of this, but some of our trips are discretionary trips where we choose to do errands. These on-site amenities could be food services, cash machines, postal service, dry cleaning, daycare, a lot of things that people need kind of throughout their day and their life. And then again, the parking cash out. Is if there is a charge for parking or if the employer subsidizes parking, that they can use that money for this alternative. Parking management is something that you don't think of very often when you think of sustainable transportation, but it is a strategy used to balance the supply and demand for parking. Parking management is a set of strategies used to do that balance and can be one of the most powerful tools in modifying commute choice. There are effective parking management can help create funding for other commute programs, and there are 3 parking management strategies that I'd like to touch on. Okay, they are location and convenience of parking. Sorry. Preferential parking is a convenience incentive that reserves the most desirable parking spaces for carpools and vanpools, thus encouraging your employees to share the ride instead of driving alone. Preferential parking spaces are reserved spaces that are covered and or convenient, parking close to elevators or entrances. The effectiveness of preferential or reserved parking for carpoolers and vanpoolers has direct relationship to the degree of convenience it represents. So keep that in mind. Parking is especially effective when it's in tight supply or employees have to search for parking. which is typically the case at the university or often in downtown. When the amount and supply of parking is reduced, employees are more willing to consider their driving alone and alternatives to that. When reducing the supply of parking, here are some things to think about. People sometimes do use their parking lots to expand their building. So then parking is reduced. You can start by evaluating your existing parking situation and research parking in the surrounding areas and decide on the appropriate strategy to turn parking areas into sports courts or leased space to another employer. So you can turn that into an advantage for you if your employees aren't using that. Also, the supply of parking could be then, instead of being used for your employees, being used for your customers or clients. And then pricing. This is one of the scarier topics for employers, is managing the pricing of parking. When a company pays for employee parking, it sends a powerful message that reinforces solo driving and discourages commuting by sustainable alternatives, such as taking the bus, carpooling, vanpooling, biking, and walking. Over 90% of commuters park free of charge at work, even in downtown areas. In addition, most employees view parking as a sacred right. Research on this issue has shown that when employees are actually charged for parking, they alter their behavior. So some considerations in pricing your parking is charging solo drivers more than ride-sharing drivers, so more than your drive-alone drivers or drive-alone automobiles do pay more or could pay more than your carpools or vanpools. Allowing people to take advantage of the parking cash-out program and giving them a choice between a subsidy or a cash amount to which they would have paid for parking. And then if you do offer free or subsidized parking, begin charging for employee parking or increase the amount they pay. Consider offering a rideshare or transit subsidy to offset some of the pain of the parking charge. And as a strategy to reduce solo driving, fees could work best where parking is limited. If your employees have parking alternatives such as free street parking or other low-cost parking facilities, that probably isn't going to work, but would incentivize them if that parking supply is not available. So parking cash out, I've touched on a little bit, is an employer could, if an employer is providing parking, there is a cost associated with that to the employer, and they could establish a parking cash out program whereby employees choose to cash out the value of the employee provided parking, forgo parking, and receive the taxable cash value of the parking. Or employees could use a tax-free transit or vanpool or bicycle benefit with that money. Other ways to support transportation alternatives in your business and in your community are supporting the projects that we have going on in Missoula. You can collaborate with city and county to identify the improvements in the projects. We've spent the last few years doing the Missoula Greater Downtown Master Plan. That's the Missoula Redevelopment Agency, the Missoula Downtown Association, the Business Improvement District, and the Parking Commission, among other businesses and organizations, have worked together to create a long-range master plan for Missoula's downtown. This plan provides 20-year vision for Missoula's downtown and makes recommendations regarding land use, the housing market, tourism, parking supply, and transportation improvements. Your businesses can support these plans, and in doing so, support the transportation infrastructure that's needed for the programs that you offer. The Complete Streets Resolution, back in August, the Missoula City Council adopted a resolution to provide complete streets. This resolution directs staff to develop implementation strategies to increase the usability of all streets for all modes of transportation in Missoula. Missoula's non-motorized transportation plan, now known as Missoula's active transportation plan. There is a community workshop. The Metropolitan Planning Organization and the Office of Planning and Grants Transportation Division is embarking on the update of the 2010 active transportation plan. The focus areas of the plan will be growth policy goals and objectives, connectivity, health and livability, safety and interagency coordination, education and outreach for active transportation like biking and walking. The American Recovery and Reinvestment Act made the completion of several projects this year possible, and supporting those and encouraging more like them is very important, like the Higgins Hill Beckwith Roundabout, the Scott Street Overpass rehabilitation, purchase of Mountain Lion's new buses, which will be hitting the road next week, so you'll see them out there. And then also the Higgins Street bike lanes, which were put in place this summer. So your most current activity to support is the Active Transportation Plan Community Workshop, which is tonight. If you're available, it's tonight at the UC Ballroom, the University Center Ballroom North, from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m.
Question about the new buses, are they diesel buses or hydrogen or anything fancy?
The buses, I believe, are capable of being biodiesel. The issue with using the biodiesel is the sourcing. So there's been some sourcing issues there, but they are engineered to run on biodiesel. And they are much more efficient because they're newer vehicles.
Are they adding to or replacing the current fleet?
They are replacing their current fleet. The buses that are being retired get auctioned. Anne, do you know more about the bus situation? Sorry, Anne Cundy has joined us. She's the Senior Transportation Planner for the Office of Planning and Grants. Do you know any more about the buses and they're being retired and auctioned? That's
about all I know. They're auctioned off sometimes. Other agencies within the community receive them as tax-deductible donations, but typically they just go to auction.
Is that a public auction or?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, I think they'll go for the color scheme. All right. Well, we hope you can join us tonight at the Active Transportation Community Workshop. Competitions, we mentioned these, and there are a few different types of competitions that you can do. Internal competitions. I know several employers do internal competitions on a weekly or monthly basis, or even for a short time period during the year, and focus on how many miles or how many days an employee has participated. Somebody who is new starting gets an award, or maybe a weight loss program or something like that. Missoula Housing Authority has several internal competitions that they run. I know Ecology Project International has run theirs as well. Other businesses in town that I know do internal competitions. St. Patrick's Hospital keeps track and does internal raffles. And we do have some, Missoula in Motion has some support for that, where we can utilize our website and logging capabilities to help you draw raffle prize winners. So if you'd like more information about that program, let me know. We also have Missoula in Motion's Commuter Challenge. We run an annual business-to-business competition for employers who promote sustainable transportation during Bike Walk Bus Week. And this year, the competition will be April 24th to May 1st. We hope you participate, and there'll be more information on how to sign up and get your employees going for that. And then larger competitions or that are open to the general public. One I found online just recently was the Cliff of Cliff Bar, the 2-mile challenge. Their focus here is that most trips are within 2 miles of home, and so they're asking you to do something other than drive for those 2-mile trips. And rewarding people. So successful programs require the right pieces to be in place at the right times. They include the right coordinator. Uh-oh. Sorry about that. So the right coordinator is someone who is motivated and interested and has access to the employees and to management, and someone who has time to spend on the programs. The success of your program will depend on your dedication and enthusiasm. The right program. Implementing elements to meet your organization's and employees' needs. Management support. Management can be your link to the resources you need to be successful. Time, money, and other company resources. They can also serve as role models for your organization. And then marketing. Tell your people about your great program and what you have to offer. That's what the Transportation Best Practices Awards is all about, is marketing your programs and telling the community about the efforts that you make. Marketing should include competitions, transportation fairs and benefits, transportation fairs, which can occur during your open enrollment or benefits fairs, new hire orientations, making sure those new hires know about your programs. And then please get help. We're here to help you. Missoula in Motion is designed to be a resource for you. So let us know how we can help. And then recognition. Recognize your employees that are participating, recognizing your efforts. Again, that's what we're here to do as well. So I'll leave you with this. Modifying that behavior is not easy. We are, most of us, creatures of habit. We get in our ways, and changing the way someone behaves requires successfully introducing new ideas, altering old attitudes, and creating the desire to try something different. Informing your employees about their commuting choices is the first step in the process to reducing solo commuting. It's also important to tell employees why sharing the ride is important for our environment and what's in it for them. But if employers haven't already done so, most are not going to suddenly hop on a bus or form a carpool or walk to work. They need to be motivated. Sometimes this means overcoming their barriers. At other times, it means providing incentives or establishing penalties for old behavior. A successful program is a blend of strategies designed to motivate employees who currently drive alone to work to try a new way to commute and encourage current participants to stick with it. So let's do it one step at a time. Here is my contact information, and also we have cards at the registration table if you need a business card or any other way to get a hold of us. Also check out our website at missoulainmotion.com.
Just one thing I wanted to speak about, the Higgins change.
The roundabout?
Saying you use the word roundabout, the traffic circle. I found some unsolicited comments about friends about, I think Missoula Motion needs to provide some kind of protocol or rules of the road for using these roundabouts, because a lot of people don't understand what the rules of the road is and how you've got to blend in with other drivers. It's some kind of community effort or a team effort to get around these things.
Sure.
And I think a lot of people are used to going from traffic lights to do it the way it was green. So maybe you want to put together something that says, well, this is the kind of rules and protocols to get around it. That we also clean those details that have nuisance. And I try to explain to them how it keeps the traffic flowing. You know, once you get them into the idea that, like Wade said there, you know, the habit is you go and you like those do this road.
Right.
So you've got to really commit to this. If you get something right away or take it in the right way, so you really want to. If you got a community thing out or a diagram or a cartoon or something on TV, you know, showing you how it works. You know, because in this way, it's a lot easier. especially late at night, you want to stop the traffic lights and wait forever, honestly, for the light to change. I better not tell you what I do, but the traffic signals, you can just go right through the traffic signals.
Did everyone hear his comments about the roundabout or the traffic circle? It does increase the flow of traffic, and also increasing the flow of traffic and moving things through smoothly, it also limits the idling of cars at stoplights. So that improves our air quality, which is very important to Missoula. So knowing how to successfully manage a roundabout, whether you're in a car or a bike, even walking as a pedestrian through those intersections is very important. So if you do have questions on that.
I was just going to add that there's a good downloadable, 1 or 2 page piece of guidance on, I think, City Public Works.
For MCAT, could you say that into the microphone?
Is it working?
Yep.
Okay. I think if you go to the city's website, I would have to dig around and find where, but there is a downloadable 1 or 2 page flyer about how to safely use the Higgins-Hill-Beckwith roundabout and roundabouts in general. So that might be a good thing to just have saved on your own computer and hand out when you have those conversations about how to safely use it. So.
Yeah, as Missoula in Motion, we can also help link you to that and send that up as a follow-up if you'd like that information.
One thing I could say technically to people who are in the business, that there is a critical point in managing traffic flow with roundabouts or traffic circles. The volume of traffic gets to a critical point where they just jam up. I'm from Scotland, and in Edinburgh there was a massive big roundabout, and the irony is that to manage the traffic flow they had to put traffic lights on the roundabout because the traffic flow was just overwhelming the roundabout. They work up to a certain point, but when you get to a critical level, it just doesn't work.
Right. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the information that we had today? The handouts, as I mentioned, do have draft policy statements that you can modify. I do have those as electronic documents if you'd like those. I always like to receive Word documents electronically so I can modify them for my uses. So if you would like those, please let me know, and we can send those as follow-up as well.
I have one random thought about roundabouts and traffic circles to add to the mix. My name's Keegan, and I work with a climate change consulting company here in town. And one of the funny things that we were approached by recently is the University of Montana is trying to figure out ways in which they can reduce their footprint. They and the city have recently put together greenhouse gas footprints and are coming up with plans and strategies to reduce. And one of their things that they're talking about is if they dramatically alter transport on campus, what's the footprint on, especially as Alex alluded to, idling and waiting time in cars, and what's that mean in terms of greenhouse gas emissions? So there are no active protocols right now for projects that quantify greenhouse gas emissions for a certification standard that's tradable in the carbon marketplace, but there are a couple of buyers of carbon credits for projects just like this, especially the Climate Trust. And basically people in Oregon and Washington are sort of interested in trying to promote alternative transportation, and they're quantifying the carbon emission benefit from roundabouts specifically. And so what we just recently were sort of poking around back of the envelope type numbers in Missoula. If we did about 6 or 7 roundabouts in this town, then the carbon credit creation would have some economic value to add to a project of that type. It wouldn't by any stretch pay for construction, but it in and of itself it reduces, or you can sort of think of it as a matching fund. But until you get to scale, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But there's a buyer that wants them if Missoula can produce them. So that's another interesting twist on alternative transport, is that there's actually in some weird projects, I admittedly this is not a traditional one, but there's an alternate funding source, not just only highway bill dollars. Weird, right?
That's great.
By the way, I love the Edinburgh man's accent. It's awesome. Thank you.
The alternative funding is key because transportation funding is limited. And infrastructure projects and programs are limited by that funding. So finding new sources that aren't federal or state is a great key to getting some projects done. Harrison.
Hi.
Welcome.
I have to jump in. I'm speaking on the climate one and then later, and it's really funny because I just took out all the roundabout slides from both my climate presentation and then the lunchtime talk. But I may add them back in. We'll see. But it's kind of, they really, we haven't seen the official studies, but they really are a measurable strategy to reduce GHG emissions.
And we have some that are working here in Missoula. It's great. Any other questions or comments?
Is this PowerPoint presentation available?
It will be. Definitely. I can make that available to you. Yeah. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you. We do have a break before our next session that will start at 10 o'clock, and that's the business of climate change. Thank you all very much.